organization members will be something that's very powerful for progressive movements going forward.
Now, with this, maybe as an example of what you're trying to build, I remember that you have shared before, in terms of building movements, advocacy work, right? You have presented this model of how you do advocacy before. There are certain steps. And I find that very, very interesting.
I think that for you to be able to do advocacy well, I would say there's a key element that you have to do, right? Number one is you have to have a specific cause, right? More often than not, people don't know what they're fighting for. They fight for women, they fight for youth, they fight for environment, they fight for Malaysia, they fight for Selangor. What does it mean, right? No one really understands. Tell me specifically what you want to change, and can you tell me how that change will happen, right? That's also another issue. If I want to end logging, what do you have to do to end logging? Does that power belong to federal government or does it belong to state government, right? What are the laws you have to change in your state government, like the Undang-Undang Turbo Negeri, to change that, right? These are all questions that you should be able to answer. So one is be specific. Number two is that utilize, I think I'm a big believer in digital advocacy. So when you talk about digital advocacy, you must be able to be attractive and you must have branding, right? You must see yourself as a business in a way, right? Similar to how businesses have branding, they have their cool logo, all that stuff. That also matters so that people can immediately be like, okay, I know what these guys are talking about, right? That's a second element that matters. The third thing that matters is that you must build a community of people who support in you and believe in you, right? So I think that part matters. But a lot of organizations do the first three parts relatively well. The part that most organizations fail, especially newer organizations, that they fail the next step, which is to engage stakeholders, right? Often, when it comes to theory of change, right, we often talk about how do we achieve this change that we want, and most people are stuck on the awareness stage. They talk about why this problem is bad, why we have to do this, why we have to fix this, right? But you're all on the awareness stage. How do you get to the stage of awareness to change, to bring this as a bill in Parliament, as a bill in the Dewan Undangan Negeri, right? How do we move there? You have to engage stakeholders, right? You have to be able to mobilize, right? So I give you an example of how we did it with Akta 342 last year, right? Where I disagreed with the amendments to the bill because I thought it was too far-reaching. It was too excessive. So what we did was that we built awareness, but immediately we spoke to multiple stakeholders across the political aisle, say that you have to stop this bill from going to be voted on.
Can you tell us a bit more, like define what Akta 342 is?
Yeah. So Akta 342 is basically the Dangerous Diseases Act. I forgot what's the full term, right? But it's basically the act that defines what are the powers of government in terms of controlling for certain public health issues. So, for example, dengue, SARS, H1N1, and of course for COVID-19, right? So what the government wanted to do was that they wanted to massively increase the power of government and especially the Ministry of Health to not only have in terms of what is the fines that were able to be given out. So for example, they wanted to be able to if let's say you were a company, they would wanted to be able to jail you up to 7 years and charge you a fine up to 2 million ringgit if you are found guilty of any sort of mistake with the Akta 342. If you're an individual, you don't wear your mask, for example, or you wear your mask wrongly, or whichever it is that they decide, they want to be able to put you in jail for 2 years and charge you up to 100,000 ringgit, right? And it's not just your health enforcers. They also wanted to give power to the Director General of Health to be able to give out these powers to everyone, whether it is the police, whether it is your parking regulators, everyone. He could just give out power that you are now authorized to give out fines and jail term for these sort of mistakes against the health code, right? So that was a bit excessive. That was way too excessive, right? So we pushed back against it. But I think that was a model of how you can use it, right? So we built the awareness and we highlighted how this thing was bad, and then we got the public riled up. But we didn't just stop there. We went out and spoke to multiple people, including, we even reached out to YB Kari Jamaluddin's office and said that let's reach out, and we disagree with this bill, right? We spoke to from MPs from not just the opposition but also with the government side. So we spoke to everyone, and we even went down to Parliament to deliver a memorandum, right? So we did all these things, and essentially the bill was defeated, and it was not brought back anymore because of how strongly and effectively we pushed back against it. So I do think that advocacy is not something that is very complex to be able to be done, but it does require hard work, creativity, and also some intelligence, right, to be able to get that change that you want. And of course, luck, right? Luck also matters greatly, right? So I think that these are the elements that often people overlook.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Giving Hub.